you don't want to give it to me if it's broken to begin with. I'll finish. Okay, I want to get everybody out of here by the given hour, and I see that some of the people who wanted to be here are here, and some of the people who wanted to be here aren't, so we're just going to go ahead and do it. I'm Nancy Cantor, for those of you who don't know me. This is my cohort in crime, Evan Richard. We have a tendency to stir things up a little bit from time to time. I grew up here, went to Hohokam, went to Coronado High School, graduated from Coronado, went to ASU. I've also been to Scottsdale Community College, and I've also been to Mesa Community College. I like school. I like to learn. I don't like to major. Don't tell me to major, just turn me loose. I enjoy learning. And that's why I'm here today. I'm still learning. I wanted our community to hear from staff what's going to be going on this year and how we got to some of the issues that we've had to deal with this year. We got a lot of new faces. We've also got some new ways of doing things. I don't know, I didn't watch the board meeting this afternoon. Did we wind that up yet? Yeah.
Yep, we're waiting for the Attorney General to.
Yeah, I know.
But we're really close.
Okay. They need to move it. I should go down and have a talk with him. That's all right. I've talked to the Auditor General. He's very nice to talk to. He would like to see some things changed. I'm just going to give the floor to Dr. Creekard. He's back in education. He retired, and then he came back. When I had my kids in school here first, oh God, back in the 90s, he was in administration here. And I found out this year that he's the one who chose Don Entz to be the principal for Coronado High School those many years ago. So I'm glad he's back. I know he too loves learning, and he loves to see all kids learn. So I'm going to turn the floor over to him, let him introduce our staff, and talk a little bit about what's going on, where we're headed this year, and then you might have questions, because I know some of you are from the Tonalea area, and you're worried about what transpired with that school when it was torn down. So with that, you're on. Do you want the microphone?
Speaker not working. Huh?
And of course, those years when I was here, Nancy was also very active in the community and has been ever since. So it is nice sometimes when you come back and there are a lot of new faces that you have some familiar faces and familiar goals. So she said, my name is John Creekard. I was a Scottsdale School District administrator from 1979 to 2002. I went to Paradise Valley District next door, where I became superintendent, and then retired in 2009, and then went to Deer Valley as interim superintendent, retired again. Then got a really nice job in, I think, January of 2013 as a half-time consultant at a place called Science Foundation Arizona downtown, putting STEM classes in schools with a grant. It's a half-time job. It was wonderful. And then the CEO came to me and he said, our board wants to do more with K-12 education, and you're here. How about going full-time for a few months to help us get started? And I said, sure, and that lasted 2 years. Then in 2015 I retired, and that was it. I was done. This last couple of years in Scottsdale, I was watching the issues between groups of people, and my heart went out for people trying to get this done, people trying to get that done. Conflict is not usually good for students and for learning. And so when the superintendent left and I saw that they were posting the job, I thought, well, maybe my skill set even at this age after having been retired would help. So I put my name in to see if I could help. The great thing, and I said this morning to a group of teachers and administrators, the great thing that even though there was a lot of stuff going on in the newspapers and the Attorney General involved and all of that, what was going on in the schools was constant. Teaching and learning was happening. People were doing the job that they wanted to do, what they were hired to do. The staff that was taking care of the buildings were taking care of the buildings, moving forward all along. We hope to put all of that behind us and that become, again, our main focus, our only focus of student learning. But there are issues always in communities. So tonight, the people who agreed to come without too much coaxing, introduced from the district. This is Dennis Rayler. Dennis is the Director of Facilities, and he has been doubling up this past spring as also managing our bond issue and the conclusion of a couple of rebuilds and some remodels, and also helping plan for the future, and there will be a lot of questions about that. And then we have principals with us, Chuck Rentala from Hohokam, Dave Krasniewski from Conalea, Amy Palatucci from Coronado, and Amy Fuller, who heads up our effort for the Coronado Success Initiative, and a governing board member, Sandy Kravitz. Thank you for coming. So, a couple of things and my job actually started on May 14th. So, at the end of last school year, most things for the year were pretty well in place. We did have to do some hiring of some positions, some key positions, but the direction for the district to start this year was pretty much in place. One of the major issues that we had, though, was how were we going to proceed with the bond issue. The bond issue had in its brochure that you had an opportunity to vote up or down on, had the rebuild of a number of schools. And I think it listed the number of schools, not the particular schools, as I understand it. The person who was in charge of the bond issue in the prior administration was gone. Somebody was hired and asked if they could take care of the bond issue, and they said he would try, but he really didn't have much experience in construction. He was an educator, not a facilities person. So Dennis took over as the Director of Facilities, managing the bond, and even reporting to the board on the bond expenditure reports, where the money came from, how it fit into the original budget of the bond, and of course, doing such things as being a construction manager on site of the two schools that were being rebuilt, Pima and Hopi Elementary School. To the point even on Memorial Day weekend, going to the Hopi site and helping the parents identify these pieces of the old building that they wanted preserved, and making sure that those mosaics and other pieces were preserved. Yeoman's duty, no doubt about it. Really proud of the work that Dennis did for us. But I thought that one of the things we do, and I asked Dennis, do you need some help? Yes. So we've managed to hire as a short-term consultant a man who is the Valley's expert on school bond issues, Dr. Skip Brown. Would you say that's a fair statement? Dennis and I both worked with Skip when he was working in Paradise Valley School District, but he retired, I don't know, about 2006 or something like that, and became an instantaneous consultant because of his knowledge and what he did. And he's been all over the district. When I called him to see if he could come and help us, he said, absolutely, I'd be happy to. I can't start till July 1st because I have 6 other districts that I'm cleaning up in June that will finish in June. Dr. Skip Brown is a Coronado graduate. He still lives in Scottsdale after graduation from, I think, that university somewhere south of us. He went into the Army, and he had a career as an Army officer. Ended up as a colonel of the Army when he retired. He moved back to Scottsdale so he could be here. So I asked him earlier today if he could come and speak at a board meeting, give the board an update. And he said, sure, where do they mean? I said, Coronado. He said, oh, I know where that is. So it's nice to have this homegrown talent and people, and he's coming to work, doing this consulting work for us, I think to a certain degree because it is Scottsdale and because so many of the schools that are in need of rebuild are in this complex. So some of the questions that you may have on your mind right now, we don't really have an answer for because we're waiting for Skip's analysis, and he's doing an analysis of the facilities, of what the bond expenditures have been so far and what they're planned on, what criteria is used. We have a number of schools that are in need of being rebuilt, but and there was at one time, a few years ago, a list of some criteria that was used that then ranked some of the schools. We want to have an up-to-date analysis of those criteria. We also, because it's been several years since we've had a demographic study done where he has worked with a man who has a company called Applied Economics. Rick Brammer is his name. He's probably done demographic studies for 25 or 30 school districts in the valley for projection for enrollments. And that has just occurred. So even the board members, I found out about that today. Some board members don't know, so that will be in your Friday memo. But we've been able to attract people who will help us solve these issues by providing the data that we need to make the decisions based on data. I will tell you a little bit about my belief system when it comes to schools and school closures, which is always a question as neighborhoods change. I believe in neighborhood schools. I love it when kids can walk to school. And I would want to keep schools open for as long as we can that are neighborhood schools. Eventually, if a school continues to decline, I have a responsibility to you, the taxpayers, to run schools that are efficient and are the best use of the taxpayer money. So we have to determine where that line is. And most of the schools that have been mentioned in the newspaper or elsewhere are I think have populations above that line. So my input will always be, how can we keep this school open and vibrant in the community and attract more kids to it? That's the first objective. We want schools to be the centers of their community. We want schools to be the place where families want to go and have events, share events, have the ability to use the grounds. I mean, some of this world has changed, but I don't know that we can keep schools secure and still allow a certain amount of access to some of the grounds and so forth. But we want those schools to be seen by the community as a place where they can gather, where they can go listen to the choir sing during a concert. Go enjoy a pizza dinner and meet the teachers and the staff. They'll be part of the community. And in many cases, in some areas where there's not a lot of social services, we're lucky in the city of Scottsdale that there are a lot of social services available, but some schools even house social services for the families. So that's where I come from. I mean, I grew up in a small town where the school was centered. School and the churches were the centerpieces of the town. That's what I'm
Can I
using.
ask you a question? I got to go to the airport here in about 15 minutes. So I just stopped in for a couple of questions real quick.
Sure.
And since Nancy brought you to the microphone, I'm assuming that you're the top dog here in the room.
Yes.
Top dog?
She just said yes.
Nancy's
You're the boss. You're the big boss. You're the big boss.
No.
So anyhow, how long, the school's been closed for what, a year and a half?
Totally. You're
Are
talking
you talking about
The
town?
whole time. I don't care about the other schools. I care where I live.
Okay.
Longer than that.
Longer than that. So.
Can you speak up a little, so we can't hear you?
The what?
Are you using the mic?
That doesn't work.
Oh, it works, but it's falling apart. Never mind. If she can get it on,
There you go.
there you go.
So I just had, again, I'm only going to be here for a very short time, so I just had a couple of questions that I'm in and out. What'd you say, a year and a half?
No, longer than that.
Longer than a year and a half?
This is 2014.
4 years, and there's no billboard, there's no plans, no nothing. So obviously, not too many people in this facility, other than the residents who live close to it. Do we know the plans at all of what's going to happen to it? I know it's all based on money, everything's based on money, but is there something planned in the future that somewhere down the road? I don't care. My kids are going.
Which school are you speaking about?
The old Tonalea. The only reason why I came. I don't want to hear anything else about the school or the rain or anything else.
So the answer to that is what I was building, what I was talking about with the consultant who's a bond project who's worked with many districts through these issues. We brought him, and I will tell you, if there was a plan prior to my coming here, we didn't know it. I didn't know when I came. It was not around.
4 years?
Well, I've been in the job since May 15th.
Oh, well.
No,
So
I came from the private sector. I moved a $40 million company from Compton, California to Phoenix. You know, the private sector, I mean, somebody's got to be responsible.
do you know how many superintendents we've been through in those 4 years?
I thought they were going to build a sports complex there, but I don't see any.
I'll let Dennis is aware of that, has been working on that in facilities, and he can.
Here, Dennis.
I don't need that. I got a very big.
Well, good for
voice.
you, Dennis.
Yes. So not to rehash a whole bunch of history, but you gotta hear the history. I've been here since July of 2016, and when I came on board originally, I was supposed to be in charge of building services. That's it. Nothing to do with bond, nothing to do with any of the renovations or anything like that. Slowly but surely, while Dr. Birdwell was here, I got drawn into the bond stuff, mostly because I had the experience. There was a lot going on, and one of the discussions was, what are we going to do with Tonalea? People are starting to complain. There's rats. It's starting to really decay because it has been empty for quite some time. So the conversation started with, what are we going to do with the mural? How are we going to take care of this building? There was budget set aside in the bond, in the original plan, to the tune of about $10 million.
Wow.
To do some kind of rebuild of Tonalea.
Wow.
When the time was appropriate, when they knew that they could actually fill it with children again.
$10 million.
$10 million.
Wow. How many schools can be built? 3 schools with that much money?
Not in this day and age.
An elementary rebuild's about 18 million.
18 million, right. So the discussion that we had was, well, let's at least demolish the building, get that eyesore out of there. Can we save the mural? There was a lot of discussion about the mural. My suggestion was, let's save that little building. Let's look at it as a sports facility, as a potential sports facility. There's never enough soccer, football, baseball, field space, ever. Yeah. So we ultimately decided, we moved forward with the board's approval to demolish the building. The original budget was $1.2 million. We spent just over $700,000 to demolish the building. We added a sidewalk, we painted the fence line, we did all the asbestos abatement, and we boarded up that small building with the intention of doing something to renovate it. I thought it'd be a good use for restrooms, accessible restrooms, and maybe a little community room, because it's a fairly good sized building that we could rent out and use. Sports facility. Phoenix Rising, the soccer program, was originally.
Like with us as a neighborhood, I'm a mom of the new neighborhood. Like, would you only have that facility for? Like, what about the community and the families that live?
Like as far as a park.
Well, $500,000 might open up the gate for us to use the swing.
Yeah. The conversation never got there, to be honest. It really never got there. The conversation should have been, how are we going to proceed? We were going to go with grass, get that going, and we've gotten to the point of, I've got flood irrigation set up, ready to go, and we've got about $150,000 worth of work to do to get the grass going. We're going to excavate some of the dirt, because it's, when you build a building, they sterilize the dirt so you don't have issues with weeds and stuff like that. And so we have to take some of the dirt out, bring new dirt in, and then put the sod down. But the question is, now that administration has changed and everything is now different, is there a light at the end of the tunnel that kids could be coming back to that neighborhood, and that we should be considering next year, the year after, building a school? And that's what Dr. Brown's work is in these coming months, is to really determine, because I've spent time with Nancy and Edmund and some other folks around that neighborhood, and there are some folks that really believe that that community is coming back.
And I'm telling you, I'm an Arcadia graduate, I'm a young mother, I'm 31 years old, and I'm telling you that as an Arcadia graduate, it's very hard for us to buy an Arcadia neighborhood. So we are purchasing, I know, at least 6 or 7 families that have moved into that neighborhood down the street.
And your question is probably just open up the swings, right?
Yeah, we would love that.
Yeah.
You know, and that's really a question, like, you know, it's very difficult because I had to push for this to even ask, like, you know, Edmund, thank you. I think he was the most communicative, like, we don't know about these meetings.
Yeah.
And I had to kind of push for it and ask for it, and like, I think if there's a little bit more communication, maybe I can take that on to like get the neighborhood more involved. But there are so many kids and so many families and babies and that are up and coming that we want, I mean, I don't want that school to go to waste, even if there was a new school to be built or playgrounds for our kids to play on, just like what you said. I mean, the world's getting crazy. We don't need any more condos. It's ridiculous what they're doing. It is sickening what they're doing with Papago, with right down the street at 64th and McDowell. It is sickening. Like, we do not need a sports complex. We do not need any of that. We need to use this space that we have. I don't know I know it belongs to the school board, from my understanding, or Scottsdale.
The district.
And so, like, what?
Yeah. There, to my knowledge, and I'm not involved in every conversation, I'm about halfway up the totem pole. There's been no conversation about selling the property, about doing anything like that.
The sports complex doesn't even seem appealing if we can't use it as a community.
Well, if you go to any of our properties, they're not wide open to the public. And there's a lot of reasons for that. The first reason is everyone that owns a dog thinks that's a dog park. And then we spend our time, valuable time, picking up dog food. So, you know, and I don't want to, Yeah, I don't want to get too deep into, you know, the logistics of, is it a park, is it not a park? More importantly is we need to determine as a district, is that going to be a school site in 2020, in 2021, in 2019?
I'll give you 10-to-1 odds it will be. It will not open up, it'll continue on, you're gonna make it in school in 2021.
So,
That's the way I've got to go to the airport. You guys have a good night.
okay,
Thank you very much for coming.
So we need to get that answer. That's really our biggest answer that we need to get. Because as of March, my life in Scottsdale schools became very, very different. And taking over Hopi and Pima's rebuilds has been a crush on my time. And so Tonalea, although I was chugging along, heading in a particular direction, that one went to the back burner. It had to. There's no advantage for me to spend my time on that when we've got Pima and Hopi that we're trying to get opened up for the new year. We've got exterior paint jobs all over the district. We've got carpeting going in. We've got safety measures going in. And there's just a lot going on. So when I talked to Dr. Creekard today, I pointed out, and he knows, that the most important thing that we've got going on is to determine what is next. There's a lot of things that I can do, carpeting, painting, roofing. I don't need really anyone's permission to do that. No one cares about that, really. The roof is on, the carpet's there, teachers love it, but it's not something nearly as exciting as a brand new school or a refurbished, fully refurbished school. So that's really our number one objective right now, is to make sure that we can determine what's next. Is it Hohokam? Is it Kiva? Is it Cherokee? Is it Tonalea? Is it Tavam? There's a whole bunch of schools that are physically in bad shape, that need to be redone, and there are questions about where are the kids? Are the kids at Cherokee? Are they at Kiva? Are they going to be 2 years down the road at Tonalea? So until we answer that question, I would love to say, I'm going to get grass in there tomorrow, and you can all go and play there, but I can't. I'd be lying to you, and I'm not going to do that. We need to make sure that we're headed down the right path. They did that matrix, I think it was like December, January time frame, year and a half ago. And in my opinion, there was one piece missing on that matrix, and that was future growth. One of the items was the current ADM at those 8 locations that were being criticized or critiqued, but there wasn't future growth on there. And that's the work that Dr. Brown is doing for us, is to determine what that future growth is and how we can best plan our dollars for those schools. Every one of our schools deserves the opportunity to be considered a rebuild or a renovation. Maybe we love our school and we want to do one thing. Maybe we don't love our school, would like it scraped out and put something brand new in. Anyone that walks into Hopi, anyone that walks into Pima in the next couple of weeks will absolutely love the new buildings. Love the new buildings. They are fabulous. But maybe that's not what the community wants, and we need to listen to that. So hopefully that answers.
As far as the community, talk about communication, like none of our, where's the communication? About, nobody, I had to, fight tooth and nail just to figure out this meeting, you know what I mean? It's kind of frustrating.
Yeah, and this wasn't our meeting. We were invited to the meeting. So I know our communication department would, if it was our meeting, communicate that out. So I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad we get the chance, and I'd be happy to, chat more if you'd like.
You talk about history. You guys weren't here in 2014. The Tonalea community showed up at the old Ed Center wearing red, and one of the things they said, which keys of what you said, is that Tonalea was the heart of the community. So what happened is, like, everyone can blame us, like, look, I just started this month. I started 2 hours ago. You know what? To our community, that doesn't mean a thing. Because we have had superintendents, we've had building managers tell us a million different things. But what happens is, you know, Hopi can go crazy over whatever that thing is. Meanwhile, Tonalea is a dirt field. And when she talks about communication, Dr. Hegard, you have a discretionary budget. You can go down to Signs USA, and you can have Dr. Pernisky say, look, I'm the principal of Tonalea, here's where we're at. But if you have questions about this property and you tie it to that fence, because the thing is, what I have seen is a building left to decay, full of rats and hobos and everything else. You tear it down, and now we have fenced dirt. So I understand it's like, well, my job is so difficult and this, that, and the other. But you realize the county could come in and say, hey, Scottsdale, where are the water trucks? Because you guys are a dust nuisance. But we don't even have a sign saying, pardon our dust, we're under this, that, or the other, and there's no communication. Even if you guys don't have a communication person, because I know in this district they last just about as long as the superintendent. But if you got a banner which said, here's our website, here's our contact person, yeah, we're going to do something about it, you're not going to do anything. Yeah.
For a short while, there was a banner on the fence, and I was asked to take it down.
By who?
It was something that someone forgot that we had actually promised. So there was a conversation, I know you guys were in the room, about it becoming a sports facility. And when I put the banner up, Future Home of, about, I don't know, 4 or 5 days later, I was asked to take it down. What are we doing? What? So it's down. And it had our website, and it had that information. I'd be glad to put it back up, but I think, you know, we need to make sure that the information on there is accurate.
I'm sorry, this is probably immaterial now, but with all the administration changes, I understand that. But not the last bond issue, but the one before that, we were promised that Tonalea would be rebuilt way back then. It was completely overlooked. All the other schools were remodeled and restored, but not Tonalea. We were left out again, once again. And then the last bond issue, we're still eating dirt.
Well, the worst thing is Nancy handed this thing out, and I got this from the district website. Dr. Pernisky, I know you're proud of Tonalea, but Tonalea did not come into existence at that date. Do you realize Tonalea is one of the oldest schools in Scottsdale left? So, you know, the community is not just a few loud people like myself or, you know, rest in peace, Mr. Heather. You have people which have spent decades here. And then when they see, and I'm going to be blunt, mismanagement, inability to communicate and everything else, because if you took down a sign, what at the very least we should have done is like, you know, Dr. Kikar, we need to have a generic sign saying, for more information, call and just have the SUSD website. Because when I am communicating better than the district, and I'm not paid, that reflects poorly on everyone from Dr. Kikar all the way down. Because Dr. Pernisky, when you have someone go over to Old Tonalea and say, this is where Tonalea is at, you should go to the, I mean, think about it. If you had the kids, look, we're going to put every once a week and get some butcher paper and say, the new Tonalea is here, and you could put a picture of your smiling mug there, and if you have questions, do this. People would be able to put up with that. It's just like for Hohokam. Hohokam is put in suspension. Well, who's knowing what about it? You know, Chuck, your face should be up there. It's like, look, I'm on your side. Be like a politician, like one of our gentlemen here is looking for office. But you need to communicate. And the thing is, in today's world, if you don't communicate, think of a zoo. You're supposed to be the lion. You're supposed to say, I command this staff because I'm here for your kids and I care for them. So when I speak, I have some weight behind it. If you don't communicate, monkeys, you know how the monkey cage is. They do all sorts of embarrassing things. Monkeys will go around creating issues. And those issues look bad on everyone. Because you can have someone saying, oh no, well I heard Tonalea is going to become this, or oh, the sports center is going to become that, or this, that, and the other. I mean, there are more rumors around here that you could shake a stick at. And like, Dr. Creekard, do you realize you're being paraphrased right now saying that you're a short timer? Yeah. So to some of the people in the community, it's like, you could promise the world, but in a few months, you're replaced. Mr. Rayler could be replaced. Anyone could be replaced. So if someone can say, look, we're falling on our face here. We need to have someone take the heat and say, look, we're Scottsdale. These are our schools. Tonley is at this place. Yes, we understand Tonley did not come into existence in 2001. Does that say 15 or something like that? Tonley came into existence a long time ago because if you go on Facebook, there's a page called I Remember Scottsdale When. Those people are not from North Scottsdale. They're not from anywhere else. They're from around here. And their biggest discussion is what's happening down here. You know how many people say, I remember when this happened and then it's gone. These people carry weight, they carry gravitas. And the whole thing is, like she's saying, people want to move here. When they see a fenced-in dirt lot, that doesn't say much. Because it's like, who's the principal of Tonalea? Well, that's Dr. Pernisky. You can drive over, send an appointment up with him, and what's Dr. Pernisky? And say, well, I'm in charge of this facility, we're a K8. And it's like, okay, you're a K8 for how long? What happened to old Tonalea? Who can he say, direct these people to? How come we can't get the community involved? Because in the old days, Dr. Pernisky would put on comfortable shoes, go with his staff, knock on doors, and say, look, we're Tonalea K8, this is what we do. Hey, you have questions about the old Tonalea? Here's the way we communicate. Amy Palatucci for Coronado doing the same thing. Because it wasn't just a few months ago that we had a community member saying, why are you going to sell Coronado? But you're saying, well, this is not in the plans. Where is that communicated anywhere? To our small little group? Where's the communication saying, no, Coronado is going to be here. We are supporting CSI. CSI is not a sham. It's not this. It's not that. Amy Fuller should be able to say, look, hi, I'm Amy. This is my weekly update or monthly update. This is what we're doing. Same thing for Dr. Pernisky. Same thing for Mr. Rentala. Everyone should be saying, we're going to communicate every way possible so we can rebuild trust. Because as it is, I may sound frustrated. That's because for years I've been trying to get someone to listen and speak. It's like everyone saying, well, you know, the board member this or we've changed this. It doesn't matter. Because when you guys go home, you don't live around from a fenced-in dirt lot. I want you guys to wake up and realize, hey, we have people living around a fenced-in dirt lot. What am I going to do about that?
And you don't have to convince me anymore. You had me right at the beginning. We need to put up a banner with information. Then I have to find somebody willing to take the phone calls. But that's what I get paid to do. But you know, to handle the rumors. We can't answer rumors that we're not asked. If they ask me, if I get an email, this is a rumor, I answer it. And I'm sure that's true of the other ministry. You get an email, there's a rumor that Coronado is going to be sold. Categorically, no. Never been a discussion about that, and I would be happy to say that. But putting up a banner on that property, we'd be happy to do that with our website, phone number, and we'll have somebody at the other end prepared to answer and direct people to the right person. Absolutely. I mean, that's a start. I know. Yeah. I'm not suggesting that's the whole thing, but it's a start. It's where you started, and I think that's where we can start.
Okay.
And can I say, slightly off topic, I know when we met, I appreciated that feedback. Doing weekly communication once school starts with the parents that are signed up for that. So feel free to give me feedback on that if it's adequate or if you have suggestions.
He does it too. Well, the HOHO parents that are on the list, he does it too. He communicates very well.
Bob, did you have your hand up?
Well, I was just going to say, as a former city council member, I know all about risk management regarding residents and general stupidity. So he answered to the thing about what to do about rumors is this, is to have a plan and make it public. Now, I will say this, but I don't see that you guys have a plan that you made public, which leads people to believe that there's a secret plan, right? A secret plan, which is actually the way it works in the city. We have an open plan and we have a real secret plan. You don't seem to have an open plan, so that leads people, especially people who are suspicious and cynical, which is actually a pretty smart thing to be in Scottsdale, to believe that you have a secret plan.
And that's why I said.
So what's your plan?
Our plan is that we hired, when I came in, with less than a month, I hired someone to develop that plan because there was no plan. If there was a secret plan, it went out the door with people before me. There was no plan. And so I'm not going to submit a plan off the top of my head with no data, no background. I'm going to have somebody come in and help us with that plan by finding the correct data, analyzing it, and let the data speak. This is what we're going to do. Here's a recommendation. Those recommendations then go to the board, and the board has the same information. We share that same information. Public meetings, you can watch them online. You can come to Coronado High School, go to the board meetings, and we will publish that plan.
When is that going to happen?
It's in the process now.
We are looking at the first presentation to the board on Dr. Brown's work will be on the 14th of August. He expects to be finished with the whole plan by mid to late September, and then we will have it. But there will be intermediate steps. There's also the bond oversight committee, which is made up of community members to make sure that we're spending the bond money the way we said we would, and they will also have a look after the board at the plan, at the data, and begin to help make some suggestions about where we go with that data. So our plan right now is a plan to develop a plan, but you have to have the data first.
Let me say something before you go on.
But I'm telling you that until you have a plan that seems credible and people
And that's what I'm trying to say.
then fine.
We will have a credible plan.
Whatever.
Yes, we will.
Let me add something. When I was asked to come, when Jim Heather asked me to get involved in Tonalea back in 2014, I didn't think I'd still be here doing this. I went to a meeting at 7:30 in the morning with former superintendent, Dr. Peterson, and he explained to me that the school was going to be closed, and I said, yeah, I know, it's not safe. It hasn't been safe since 1991. The State School Facilities Board told us then it needed to be closed. And we were part of the discussion when the Arizona Center for Law and the Public Interest took the state on in regard to safety of school facilities. All right? They did a nice dance in the state legislature and canceled out what the Supreme Court said they should do in order to get our school facilities and the funding back up where it needed to be. It's never come back. Never. So when I sat down with Dr. Peterson, I said, well, have you seen the McDowell Corridor redevelopment plan, and are you aware that there are over 5,000 multifamily housing units due to be built in the southern part of Scottsdale, south of Osborne, in the next 5 years? No. I said, have you seen, because I know this is how it works, our planning department, when a project goes through, it's sent to the school district. And the school district is supposed to go through and check it off to make sure that whatever project is coming in is compatible with the schools. And that if there are businesses that aren't compatible, they're as far away from the schools and churches as we can get them. Not one time did Dr. Peterson ever sign off on that. Neither did his facilities director. They knew nothing about it. They were operating on data, demographic data, from 2001, when we did the total community process, and it was flawed data then. They didn't consult with the city of Scottsdale long-range planning, never asked him a thing about what was going to be happening in the north. What are you looking at in the south? Nobody talked to anybody. Since about 2007, 2006, we used to have an intergovernmental committee made up of people from the school district, facilities and superintendent, and a board member, and people from the city, a council person, city manager, and I'll think of who else was on there. I think the police chief was on there because of the SRO program. But that committee went away in 2007 thanks to a previous city council member who thought it wasn't important. Now we've got what we've got. Now when I came in, I started looking at a lot of things, because that's me. and I started asking a lot of questions. And I had been away for a while. I found a lot of things that really disturbed me, both facility-wise and academically. And we did quite a study. And Mr. Heather started it all and was right in there till the very end. But since 2016 to the present, it's 2 years with a lot of stuff, a lot of difficult stuff for a school district to digest when they're supposed to be focusing on our kids. And I was very sad because I started seeing the contract and procurement violations peeling out. And I've been through that back in 98 and 99, so have you. And it's disruptive, it's divisive, it's a trauma that if a school district goes through it, it's a pain to try and get it back on track. When we did that back then, we had the Attorney General's office find us in violation of contract and procurement laws to the tune of $11 million. 8 people were indicted. We passed school bond in 2016, and we didn't have the plans together that we had back then. None of the data that was being used in 2016 was solid data. Now, thanks to the Attorney General's office, we had to come to a standstill. The Attorney General is investigating the school district. Okay, because
we had to come, that caused us to come to a standstill. There was some.
Well, really, what you're saying is that you, over the years, provide a lot of input and everybody ignored you.
no, people listened, but some people had another vision. One vision that had been put out there early on was let's take all of our Title I schools and give them to a charter. That's not what the parents wanted. The parents wanted public education. The parents wanted their schools. That didn't go over very well. There have been a lot of things that have come up, some of them based totally on rumors, totally. There's no fabric there. And some of them, we have to start over on some things. But I was here in 98, 99, we had a program called Erase the Hate that dealt with cultural issues. We need to bring that back. We have issues. We had an issue at Catalia, and it was generated at that time by the principal. And that's why I stuck to it.
So would you like to see Catalia rebuilt?
I would love to see all of our schools built so that they had an element of sustainability, so that they were right-sized, because we're not going to have 2,000 kids in an elementary school anymore, and I too believe in neighborhood schools. But we're not going to have those kids like we had when I was going to Hohokam, or my neighbor's kids were going to Hohokam. We almost had to go on double sessions at an elementary school. And I got out of Coronado just before they went on double sessions. So we have to look at the future. What is going to be doable? What's going to be cost effective? But we need the right data to do it. And I am delighted. I had an opportunity to go with one of the new people in the administration and sit down with Erin Perot in long-range planning, and just for an hour and a half, she just spit stuff out that they had no idea was going on in our community, whether north or south. The revitalization in the southern part of Scottsdale is going to change some things. Yes, the young families, God bless you, come in, because I like living in a...
So if you could do a banner, that would be...
You'll get your banner, one way or the other. But the thing is, if we're not working together with the city, we're not going to understand what the growth aspects are, and there are aspects there, as you well know. And I think it's really important that the community's voice is part of this. And that didn't happen when we were looking at rebuilding Hopi and Pima. The surrounding neighborhoods didn't get a chance to come in and sit at the table and say, what are you doing? How do you do it? And I know that reorganizing, we can do stuff like that. We did it at Coronado in 2003 when we rebuilt that school. So there are opportunities up and down that we can do. But these guys have to keep things going now. And I'm delighted we have building principals here with us, because they're getting ready for school to start.
So
I'll sit down and shut up.
if we could take just a minute to understand that the past is the past. I know that I've worked with Dr. Picard in the past.
But we're going to forget about that.
But we're going to forget about that. The past, I'm talking about the not so recent past. And if I have anything to say about it, I haven't gotten a pink slip yet. So if I have anything to say about it, we are going to get better. We are going to communicate better. We are going to come up with a plan that is sustainable, that is the appropriate plan for the district. From a building perspective, I don't teach kids. I'm not in the classroom, but I take care of the classrooms. So I want to make sure that what I have to be responsible for is what we need, what the community wants. So if I'm here, still working in the district, that's what you're going to get. Okay? Question?
Well, I just want to preface it by saying I'm so grateful that Dr. Picard is here. I knew him when I was on parent council, and we had a lot of issues then too, but they were handled better because it was more open. There was a lot more transparency than there is now. Now they've dissipated parent council, so that's one issue.
It's starting up.
And then I've heard that it's starting up again, which is good. Now, the statement that was made that all of the schools are overlooked, not true at Cherokee, this is in Paradise Valley. It looks like a third world country. I went in to help my daughter who was a first grade teacher. I walked into that classroom and I was like, oh, the desks look like they were shoved around from the 50s. They are so heavy and cumbersome. They've got graffiti on every single one of them. It's nice graffiti though, because the kids at that age, they're just learning to write. So it's not bad to look. In fact, the walls on the outside, the concrete is rough. It's not just smooth like that. And the kids scribble chalk all over. Actually, it makes it look better too. But the construction, the architecture is like a dungeon in there. There are no windows like the Kiva where she was before. So I sure hope that they have more openness with any kind of architectural renderings that you are so inclined to pursue in the future. That it doesn't look like some kind of a penitentiary.
I agree. I like windows. I like windows.
Go ahead.
There was another one.
I do work at Hoboken, but first and foremost, I'm a community member here, and I graduated from Coronado. Both my boys graduated from Coronado. This is my community, and I care about all of the schools in our complex. It's not just a Hoboken deal, because Coronado needs to succeed, and we all know that Pima doesn't play in this complex. So you've got the other three schools that feed into Coronado. I mean, I was part of the band, my boys were part of the band. Coronado is an excellent school, and we all need to work together on this. And unfortunately, I just told Chuck the other day, I hang my head because this is 10 years. These butcher paper discussions started in 2008, and it's neighbor against neighbor against. I don't care about you, I want me. I don't care. We need to work together, and we're singing to the choir. But our complex is different, and you just know because we stay here. I mean, his mom was my boy's EDK teacher. We stay here. We don't all go. Families stay here. And it's just different. And so they can't all be looked at the same. The Coronado complex does need the care and treatment. And we have been fighting this for so long. It's just like, and now there is revitalization. I'm not excited about all. I'm not loving the crammed in multi.
You don't like those skinny townhomes?
Yeah. 20 on a 1.2 acre lot. This is stupid. But we love this neighborhood, and we have to work together. All of our schools are different, but we bring something to the table. And they go to Coronado, and my son was like, "Don't anybody call Coronado ghetto?" Because I call ghetto violent. But I mean, if you own it. But I mean, my boys graduated. My boys, one graduated ASU, one's at ASU. It's it's, you know, we stick with it here. And it's just, we just want to be heard, and we just want this entire community. I mean, I work at home, but we have no air, like today and yesterday. It's one building has air and one building doesn't, you know. We just want to work together. We want to get these kids, we want to keep kids. I tell people all the time, because, you know, they want to go away in 5th grade, you know, if you go a block north, you're doing better. But go, and I'm like, have you gone to Tallinn? Have you gone to talk to Dr. Praninsky? Have you know, go check it out. Yep. Nobody's going to get killed over there, I swear.
I swear.
It is, but we do. We stick around. It's just a different. I mean, Chuck can say it's just a different kind of neighborhood than our other neighborhoods, and I'm just glad, Nancy. I'm glad you continue to fight. I'm glad we're all here, and I think we all are here working together, not just because we all need to succeed, so that Coronado succeeds.
I got a 10-month-old grandson, a great grandson that's coming in here,
and he needs to be a Don.
I can tell you that on, I think it was day 2, I didn't have an appointment with Dr. Creekard, but I was in the area, and he gave me the, hey, get in here for a second. And his first question was, where do you need help? And within a week's time, Dr. Brown was activated. Without a plan. I get it. I get it. Dr. Creekard gets it. We need a plan. And the plan, there's no invisible plan. I can tell you there's no invisible plan.
No.
If anybody watches my segment of the bond presentations on the, I take care of the life cycle stuff. Paint, carpet, roofs, air conditioning, all of that. I have a plan. 3 years out, I've got a plan. But we don't have a building plan. We've not had a building plan.
There was. Years ago, facility master plan.
Yes, yes.
And I think there was a second rendition, facility master plan. But I'll tell you, right now, talking about rebuild of some of the schools down here, this should have been 15 years ago.
Yes, it should have been.
At least. But, you know, and city council members say, funds are limited. The decision to go out for a bond issue and how much is a major decision for any organization to ask the voters for a tax increase. And so the plan at that time was we'll rebuild the high schools first.
Yep.
Then we go out for another bond issue and we'll rebuild the middle schools. And instead of doing that because you only want to fund so much in bond money in your taxes at one time. I mean, you can't go for $1 billion on our taxpayers here. But so it was spread out. And whoever made that decision, I'm sure it was the superintendent in conjunction with the board, and they had the best information that they had at the time, that this was the way to go. And they did high schools first, and they did a really nice job with several of the high schools. And middle schools, the same thing. They did a really nice job with some of the middle schools. And now it's the elementary school's time. But it was in phases. So as much as we can regret the fact that this wasn't done 15 years ago, there was a plan at the time to do it.
Yes.
But now we come down to the same situation, and we're 15 years later, and the elementary buildings are in worse shape, obviously, than they were, despite the efforts of building services to keep them going. But you can only run 700-800 kids every day through a building and take so much wear over time. So there is a plan, there was a plan, and now we're at the end of that plan, and we're developing this phase of the end of that plan. Late, I'm sorry, but I was not part of that. I don't know that I would have done it any differently if I was, because they were based it on data at the time. So, but we will have a plan this fall for what we're doing with the rest of this bond issue over the next 5 to 7 years. And some of that money in the bond issue is set aside for security reasons, for upping security, video security and all, which is crucial, unfortunately, in this day and age in our schools. Some of the money has been set aside for replacing some old vehicles, buses and other vehicles, and because we want to keep our kids safe when they're on the roads as well. Most of the money, probably 90% of the money, is for school building construction, new building renovation. Yes, ma'am.
One of my concerns is that now that we have a team that is a qualified team in the administration, and you've got to work on a fast track because your ink is drying.
Right.
My concern is, do we now have a school board that will leave you alone, only deal in policy and not micromanage you?
Yes. Yes. With one caveat, I'll be very frank. The board, my opinion, my layman's psychoanalysis, the board feels a need, has felt a need through this spring to ask more questions than normal because they want to make sure that administrative mistakes that were made are not made again. They're doing their due diligence. They're asking questions to find out, getting the background on some information that for whatever reason wasn't done, and I don't think it's for lack of boards asking questions, but that's another matter. But they are very involved. They are very supportive of this administration. I've been very happy with things that we've asked for going forward. They're very student-oriented. They're about student results. So very much involved. Mrs. Kravitz was at the professional development this morning to hear what teachers were hearing about how we improve our schools and student learning. Then a board meeting in the middle of the day, and she's here tonight. And there's real.
We used to have board members that would stroll through the schools. They were welcome. Come and see what's happening on the ground.
And that's still happening. Yeah, that's
schools.
Yeah.
My children went to Navajo and Saguaro and Coronado for many years. Coronado had the hardest working parents, 3 jobs. And kids in the community are extremely important. We don't need our communities. We know whose dog is loose. We know whose kids are out in the street. It's a total different culture. And it's important for the school district to recognize that and nurture it. And Tomley at grade school is one of those things that needs to be nurtured.
Thank you. That's bad.
I understand the analysis of the demographics. I get that. But until that is out, is there a plan for Tonolia? Are you going to continue with the sports complex idea? Is it going to be started? I know you mentioned that earlier, but I didn't understand if you want to actually do that or not.
At this point, at this point, I would like to see that demographic information first, because, like I said, we could spend $150,000 redoing that dirt area. And if the demographics come back and tell us that, hey, 2 years from now, you're going to have kids. Well, if 2 years from now, we're going to have kids, we need to start soon, right? So I don't want to throw away $150,000 and not throw away. Okay? Exactly. You know, I get it. I understand. I had made a commitment that we would turn it into grass. And I want to do that. But I've also heard from other community members saying, hey, we're coming back. The kids are coming back. So until I can see that data, I don't want to put that money in there and then 8 months later, well, let's scrape it out.
So where's the data coming from, and when are we going to have data?
That's what Skip Brown's working on.
This fall.
And we should have that here early.
What are you basing that on all this new development?
The demographer that we're using is somebody who has done 25 school districts in the valley. He's an expert at building projections for growth. I used him one time before in a previous district, and he's spot on. He has all of the gathers all of the information from 100 different sources and builds his projections, and he's spot on, and that's why. And we're lucky to get him to do this short study for us, because otherwise he's booked to even start a project until January. He's not available until at least January this year. With other projects he's booked because he does such good work that he's in such demand. But that's what we're using, because I wanted the best person that we could find, best person available that knows this city, this area, this valley, and to give us the best projection so that we have the right data this time to make the decisions. And like Dennis says, we're not going to build a school for $18 million and then find out 3 years later, 5 years later that we need to close it.
So we want to, I want to move these things along. Even though I'm very busy, I know that it takes time for the planning, for the community meetings, for the design, for the more community meetings, for a little bit more design, for all of those things. And so each day that goes by, we're losing that time. Maybe that works out to Tonalia's advantage, because a little bit more time will tell us that more kids are coming. So we want this to happen as badly as you want it to happen, believe me. I like to stand back and look at my work. Tonalia, I drive by it almost every day, because I stop by his school to check on his paint job. And I look at it and it's like, it's an unfinished job. I need to get that thing done. But I can't in good conscience dump a bunch of money into it if I don't know what's happening in 6 months, 10 months, 18 months. I just can't do it.
Can you keep your word about some communication of where
Absolutely.
Go?
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm willing to put fires on people's doors. I mean, I know several friends of mine that are in the neighborhood with kids, and they don't even know about it. You know what I mean? They don't know about this meeting. So Edward was the only one to tell me about this meeting. So
well, and Ed and I will still be telling anybody who needs. Yeah.
All through our neighborhood app. Like, not a lot of people use that app. That's the only way that.
No, you're right.
So we appreciate it.
Doesn't the school district still have a school district website?
Yes. Yes.
Those kids are posted. Right. Those families for people that are in school, like these are, I have 10.
There are a lot of people who don't know it's there.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah, so that's what will be on the banner is the website, and encourage people to go to the website.
That when meetings are and get them involved.
Well, the other thing that the city of Scottsdale does that's very helpful is have a public meeting notice. Tells you where these council members are at their location, and whether it's a public meeting or a Rotary Club or something.
Please, yeah.
So you can check that and find out where these gentlemen are.
The one thing I suggest you do, speaking about communication, you mentioned you go down to, Supai and checking out the paint job. Do you realize how awesome it would be if you were to ask Dr. Paninsky, like, hey, I know it's going to be a hard time, but find a 6th or 8th grader with a cell phone. I know it's going to be hard to find. But I want them to stand in front of school. We're going to find some old painter's clothes, and they're going to hold up something which you can have printed, or they can do is like, Tonalia K8 is getting a new paint job. That's going to cost this. The Tigers are moving forward. Hohokam gets a new AC. Pima is going to be ready for this time. Those are the simple things where I know you're busy, but you know what? If these principals start engaging the students and the community will respond. They'll say, you know what? I know Dennis, and he's working his butt off because I'm seeing that he's getting paint up here. He's getting this there. I mean, if you were just to ask them to do a little thing, I could find kids any day would say, look, Pima is going to cost X number of dollars, and they could do one of those little happy little doodles to show you the number going up to the sky. And then you can have to say, okay, but Tonalia is flat with no dirt. You can show a picture, you can use a said horn noise, but then you say, if we put sawdust in, it cost X amount, you could just use some vague amount. And then you say, But SUSD is listening. You'd have a kid with a big ear saying, contact us here on what we're going to do next. By involving the kids, you get these principals to actually do more than just, hey, we're here to educate the kids. We're actually here to become part of the community. Because that's the thing which is going to help everyone is that, hey, look, I can go to Dr. Perniski, and I know that we have these cute kids doing these little great things, and I know that here's Dennis's information. Hey, look, here's our acting superintendent, and you're going to have a kid saying, okay, what's the difference between an acting superintendent, an interim superintendent, or what a superintendent is? You have kids dressing up, this is what a board member is. All of this stuff which you sit there, because I swear, there's times I'm nodding off as you're putting up the Excel sheets. But the one thing I noticed, and there's a lot of people in Scottsdale know this, when you're talking about the paint jobs, you realize you had this big estimate, and then it's like, but I turned it down to this. If you would have said, look, this is Dennis Railer in the spot, we had X amount, it's now this amount, that desk, that can equal, and you have someone move in X number of books, X number of, desks. These kids are creative, and these are things which catch on, and this is the type of free communication where you don't need to have a communications expert or communications department manage. And then people say, you know what, I know what's happening at Hialeah because I know that we have this little YouTube video, we have this, we have that. But it all links back to the district. But don't fall back on, it's on the district website because the district website is horrible, okay? You need to give more life to it. These are schools. People are used to, I go to the principal, he's going to know. The principal's going to know. Hey, look, McDonald's has so many openings here. We're going on a field trip here. Hey, Chuck is going to have this big thing for robotics team. Hey, Mike, fell and slipped his ankle, but let's do, get well cards or something like that. That's all the type of communication which is embedded in the history which people want. And this is not something you're going to pull up in a book and say, yep, we met this. It's like, no, this is when you stop, take a second, just look at the world around you and see how the way people communicate. Because if you don't get this little $11 stand with shipping, if you don't put yourself on the other side of it, and just take a few minutes and say, hi, I'm Dennis Railer. This is what I do. This is what I'm doing for you. Here's my contact information. Less than a minute, boom, people are going to know what you're doing, and then people are going to support you. Same thing for Dr. Perniski. Dr. Perniski is really awesome with Twitter and the rest of that stuff, but you know what? I can tell you, you're going to have the kids, and even at Coronado, they would love to communicate for you. Empower them. Just think about that. A communication major can make how much? If you get that sixth grader saying, instead of having a camera up their nose, saying this is what Coronado is, this is where Dr. P is, this is where an SRO is. You constantly put that message out there. You involve the kids. You get the teachers involved. This is how you build community. That's what you need to do.
So I wasn't hopefully trying not to be rude, but I just emailed the communication department to see me tomorrow morning about developing a plan for Coronado communication.
Good.
So right now, real time, right?
Wow.
Yep.
Okay, my issue is a little bit different than everyone's here, and I'm very supportive. I did come in late, but and I talked to Nancy about policy governance. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yes.
I wish the school board has a sense about how it's the reputation is more important than what's good for children, and how you rubber stamp things rather than be accused of meddling. And what has happened in the past has definitely contributed to this attitude that a lot of us have about the school board. I would like to see everybody recall. That's where I am.
So you're saying that the school board isn't focusing on academics? Is that?
You're more focused on the outcome of what your image looks like, and you're not really directing your policies relative to what's best for schools and children. You're rubber stamping things.
Oh, okay. I disagree with that. I think for too many years, and I can't speak for my school board colleagues, but I believe there may be some support for this, that there has been a decline in this district. We had a reputation, it's Scottsdale. And so people weren't looking at outcomes in the classroom because it's Scottsdale and everything's okay. And I think actually that's what our school board has been trying to do, is to focus on academics. We do have some great teachers and some,
really good outcomes, but you have a high-achieving kid, you can put them anywhere, whether it's Chaparral, Coronado, Saguaro, they're going to do better than any charter school, but it's the kids in the middle that often get lost. So we have been trying to focus on academics. Unfortunately, our focus had to be taken elsewhere. But I'm not interested in what we have and were. We have to be looking forward to the future because we aren't where we should be. And there's a reason why we've lost several thousand students in this district. And I believe it has to do with academics and people feeling that their students weren't being well served. And we've got to show that we are serious about our academics and that we want to attract people back into our district schools. I believe programs and academics drive schools. Yes, it's great to have a great building, and we should have buildings that have air conditioning and roofs that don't leak, and that the library isn't musty. But if we're not teaching our students so that they can become better citizens, then that's a bigger problem, a bigger issue. I don't know if did I answer your question?
No, you didn't.
I'm sorry.
But it was interesting to hear.
I don't.
I will tell you, and I'm not sucking up because I don't need the shop. I can go back and my golf. But I came into this job because I saw a need and thought that I could fill it. And there's no question in my mind, from the time from the day that I first interviewed to today, there's no question in my mind that the emphasis of the board is on student achievement and driving. And so anytime that you think they may be talking about image, really what they're talking about is what do the community feel about their schools and whether their kids are learning.
Then why were the procurement practices listened to and addressed in a more direct manner than they were or they weren't?
Because like most things with procurement, you don't find out until after it's already done. And you go back and look, how did this happen or why did this happen? Now, from 1998, when we had that back then, the Auditor General requested that the state legislature look at all school funding policies and come up with a way for each school district to see if their policies meshed with what was actually said in the state policy. They did it. The state school board, what is it, ASBA.
Arizona School Board.
Those people. They are the ones who kind of educate and train school board members to do their job. They never took that up, and they haven't addressed it. So we're back here. Many school districts are going through what we're going through. Again, something has to be done to end that. There has to be a clarification of state policy and district policy so that they mean the same thing, and they're not hanging out there to be bent and broken.
I mean, a lot of this is based on what we're using, everybody I think has heard of one GPA. And unfortunately, there was, there was an expectation that they were doing some vetting that we've, unfortunately, in 2020 hindsight, I found out that wasn't occurring. So that kind of got us to the problem that we were at today.
So using, and what you're referring to is we used some cooperatives that were allowed by law, cooperatives who had done the bidding process and the procurement process, and then said these companies meet these needs. And then rather than us go through the whole request for proposal and bidding process, the district can go and say, all right, they've already been vetted, we'll use them. Well, we were depending on them to be, and now that is found out. So as a result, we have changed the practice, and we are going through independent bidding process and procurement, and not using cooperatives anymore, especially those that we have found that did not do the job that we thought they should be doing. So we're doing a complete review and examination of our procurement practices and procedures to make sure that we are meeting the law in every case, and that our practices are consistent from now till whenever, so that we don't have this kind of situation arise again. And we are taking action on that, as well as doing a review of our human resources function that ended up that were policies, practices were kind of thrown out or disregarded, and we had people coming into the district that weren't qualified in the areas that they said they were, and we're addressing that as well now as a result of what.
And also using for the procurement practices that we were using and using a consortium with single source. Using a consortium that's been going on for years in this district. It's not just in the last 2 years. I just wanted to be clear on that.
Around the state.
Yeah.
Not just one. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question on the bonds that we have passed. In our oldest bond, has it all been allocated? And do we have bond oversight committees that include citizens, residents?
Yes, we do.
Great. Are they appointed by?
Mike Peabody's on our bond oversight committee.
Who appoints them, and how often do they turn out?
I don't know how they were selected. I assume there was a certain amount of a call went out. People who were interested.
Yes, there was they put it out. It was people to apply. You apply, you give a list of your credentials, things like that.
And then you ride out the entire loan until it's spent.
That's what my understanding is.
So I heard in an earlier discussion here someone saying, well, the bond that we passed to identify schools, it just said a number of schools. So how do you track? That's not normal. Normally when you pass a bond, it's specifically for a project.
Right.
And you know that project has to be where the money goes. If
Right.
it doesn't go there, it goes back.
Right, and we're doing it. Dennis is doing that now. Our CFO is taking that over, and our consultant, Dr. Brown, is reviewing that to make sure that is that he's looking at all of the invoices from architects and construction companies and so forth, and reviewing those to make sure that the numbers all match. And there is an audit function down at the end. And then old bond issues, once there's a limit, 10 years, Dennis, 10 years for bond?
Yes.
At the end of 10 years, whatever money has not been spent goes back to retire the bond, the bond itself goes back to the taxpayers. It's a refund to the taxpayer. So, because when you pass a bond, it has a limit. You have to spend the money within that amount of time.
How many bonds do we have writing out right now?
One.
I know 2, don't we?
One bond.
One bond.
We have a couple of overrides. We have some overrides.
Two overrides.
We have a capital override and an M&O override.
Back in Dr. Peterson's era, while he had a draft committee, which is the blue ribbon committee that we had together. I was on that committee. I went around and actually took pictures of all the schools that were talked about. We presented to the governing board at that time which schools are. We named it. It was easy to do. When this new bond came in, or when this bond came to light, we put together a huge big package on this because every school was going to get touched by the bond, not just the Rebos, which is the biggest chunk. But we understand security, carpeting, fencing, everything like that, signage was going to be redone. I can sit here and I name all the schools that should be rebuilt. And I can also go through and say, this one should be first, this one should be second, but I can make an argument for every one of those schools to be not first or second, third, fifth. Sitting on the bond committee, I'm looking forward to getting this data on the demographics where we're going to see what's going on to make recommendations to the board. My intent is to sit on the board for quite a while, but in full disclosure, I'm also running for the governing board. So I might not be on because there is a board member at the meetings, and that's currently. So if I become board member, then if she still wants it, she has help just watching the distance. But committee oversight, there will also be a lot of citizen oversight, as we've seen with everything that happened. Yeah.
No, they're invite only.
They're invite.
Sonny, I'm on it with him too. There are a couple of other people from down south here who are on it, and we were going to ask at the next meeting. Our next meeting's in August 24th, and we're going to ask if we can develop some kind of way of maybe just putting a notice out of what was discussed, not all the discussion, because we get into some big discussion, but putting out there so people know where we are in the process.
Progress report.
Well, yeah.
And actually, there is a board meeting, a study session 2 days after that
Okay.
meeting, and so there will be some discussion at the study session of the oversight committee, and that will be live streamed on our website.
Good.
Can I just say that the bond oversight committee meetings are not open meetings?
Correct.
How is that legal?
Because it's not a governing board committee. It's an administrative committee.
There may be one governing board.
You're on thin ice on that.
Well, we would not be doing that if our attorney had told us. Our attorney has to be very careful in advising us on open meeting law.
But not awarding contracts, you're simply discussing projects.
It really is just an update to the community so that they can then filter that information out. We gave them documents, we gave them stuff that they could share. So, but I've been involved with one meeting.
Yeah.
We've had one meeting.
Okay.
There were two others, forgettable, very forgettable. I've been to one. And the one that I was at, Mike, I thought went very well.
It did.
Let me, I ask questions ad nauseum. One of the questions that I put when I attended the first meeting was, how are we going to interact with community? And I didn't get an answer. And that might be something we need to revisit
I think the most common thread I've heard all night long is communication.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. So we need to figure that out, and we're going to figure it out.
Correct, because you need to, because think about it. Sonny currently over there is ingrained like a barnacle on some World War I ship in the city, okay? And we should all thank her for that. But for her to ask that question, what schools are on the bond, should immediately tell you, Dr. Kikart, to ask someone, we need to put out a short video or a little one-page flyer. This is what the bond is. And then we have it here. Then we're going to send some to Dr. Pernissi. We're going to send some to Amy. We're going to send some to everyone. So when someone asks that question, here, look at this. Here's for more information. Who selected the people for the bond oversight committee? There should be something about that. Everything, you have to explain everything. Do you know why? Because the word transparency, which was brought up also, doesn't exist. You can't assume that, well, when Dr. Kikart was here X number of years ago with the dinosaurs, this is the way it is now. No, the way it is now, you have to communicate everything. And I'm not trying to insult you, I'm just trying to tell you that you need to communicate. Otherwise, people will go on these wild flights of fancy. It's like, our community member over there was like, well, Cherokee's like this, that, and the other. You know what? Why doesn't the Cherokee community have something? It's like, look, we met with our principal. Here's some pictures of our stuff. This is stuff we like to discuss. And hey, look, go to this little page. And it's on the SUSD page. And then here's some kids talking about it. It's like, oh, look, we have David Smith or something. Yeah.
Don't please stop saying.
Yeah. Of course, because she knows you well.
Yeah.
She has nothing to fear. I've been to Cherokee. I've seen it. I've been to all the schools that are, there's a tree growing through the principal's office at Kiva, Cherokee, at the time that was cutting edge architecture. I think that may fall under brutalism.
Yes,
I'm not sure.
that's
It's
true.
quite brutal. But, your daughter's not to fear.
So Can I just give you an example of how I understand we should be communicating better? I got this text from Alexis at Pima yesterday. Hey, this is crazy. There's rumor that Pima is far behind, that our kids are going to Yavapai. How insane. Pima's not behind. I don't know how somebody came to that conclusion, but she heard it through another principal in our district, that he heard it from a teacher in our district. So, yes, we need to communicate better. Got it.
Need a plan. All right.
I have a plan.
Do we have a communications department? Because I know for a while it was kind of cut down. We have people that will take Aaron Holmes'
We are
position.
getting ready to interview for the public information officer who left the end of June. So we're getting ready to interview. But there's still a department.
I'm an observer. Really, I got involved with State Our School because there's a systemic, pernicious effort underway to hire public school funds to some private or charter school arrangement.
And a fine job of doing it.
We're at least starting the process. And I started attending the Scottsdale Unified School District governing board meetings about a year ago, or so, and I don't think I ever saw such uniform despair from teachers and parents, and such consistent disdain and disrespect from board members and administration. It didn't seem to think that their heartfelt concerns were kind of the problem of what's going on. We have the lowest paid teachers in the country, and you don't give them respect and consideration in some sort of an effort to ameliorate the frustration that must be going on here. I think, somebody needs to go back to some sort of basic management school. If you want a good product, the people in the middle of that process have to be happy and optimistic and feel respected and listened to. I didn't see anything like that. And hopefully this is going to change. I heard good things about you. And, finding out how we end up with a governing board that is so consistently, I don't know, free market oriented or something. I don't know. But it's quite disheartening because I know lots of parents that are sending their kids they would love to have in Scottsdale University. But they have to look other places until we fix it, and then fix our issue. The damage that's been done is going to take a while.
So staff morale and confidence in the district is what I've been working on since I came in. I think reception that as school is getting ready to open and teachers are coming to different meetings, the reception that we at the district have received from teachers has been drastically different than it was in May at my first board meeting when 27 people spoke and called to the public. At the last board meeting, nobody spoke and called to the public. But as I said at the outset of this meeting too, one thing that I did learn, that for all of that talk about discontent, the teachers were doing their work, the principals were working hard. It may not have been as comfortable a setting as they would like. Well, one of the things that I believe firmly in is that you get the best performance from people by respecting them, treating them as professionals, but also holding them accountable. But holding someone accountable through a respectful situation and through having a relationship with people is very different than holding people accountable when they don't understand why decisions are being made or how they're disseminated the way they are. And I don't mean to disparage anything before me. I'm just saying my style is to build relationships through respect and professionalism, and then tell people, now go out and do your job. If you don't do your job, then you'll hear from me again. And it will also be respectful, but it may not be the same fun conversation that we just had. So there's a way to get results from people that has been successful in my 40 plus years of education.
You have a good reputation. But before, the administration that was in there before, how they got Birdwell there, who had a trailing liability of not using substantially at Kigley.
Okay. This is a complex situation. When I got involved here, it goes back farther than Birdwell, okay? There were issues. When you can't get a superintendent to talk to you, like he's doing right now, that's a bad thing. It's a bad sign. When you ask for information at an individual school and they're afraid to give you that information, that's a bad sign.
Well, Birdwell was a symptom of the problem. Yes. She is not the problem.
No, what I'm telling you is it goes back farther. The previous superintendent and the previous superintendent, they come here and they think Scottsdale, everything's fine. Everything's wonderful.
They didn't come here and find that out.
No, they thought that before they got here. Then they got here and they got us. And not everything is fine all the time in Scottsdale, whether you're talking about the city or the schools. Okay? There are issues that have to be dealt with and confronted on a daily basis, whether you're talking about working conditions, whether you're talking about teaching, whether you're talking about the facilities and the upkeep of the school. There are issues that need to be dealt with. When you have someone who isn't open enough for discussion of what's going on, you've got a problem.
Right, and I think that if they're the superintendent, they can find that problem begins to get systemic within the system, and there's a lot of that needs to be addressed.
We've got a lot of work to do, and I'm like everybody else. I was very happy that Dr. Creeker decided to throw his hat in the ring and come back, because he does have those skills to work with a diverse community and to work with a staff that needs some new goals, needs new objectives, needs new direction. Staff didn't have it for a long time, and I've been told that by staff. I was told that by an assistant superintendent who left. I've been told a lot of things by a lot of people, and I know that going back and rehashing Birdwell and everybody else isn't going to solve the problem. Looking and seeing someone who understands what they're looking at and understands where we need to be is what we've got to do. And that, I'm praying that we keep him here, but that's what we've got now, and he's got a lot to sort out. I mean, a lot to sort out.
The meeting, last one I attended was remarkably better than what had been going on last year. So I'm optimistic. I think that things are at least going in the right direction. But I mean, you ended up with people like Mike Peabody, I call it the torches and pitchfork clubs, who've been railing against things that weren't right for a while and catching a lot of crap for it. And now we're at a point where things are starting to get fixed, and I'm pleased to see that. So good luck to you.
One thing I like to throw in there, because, look, I'm a Coronado Don. I've been here for, well, ever, in my terms. But Mrs. Palatucci sort of was thrown into the thresher. Dr. Perniski got the same thing. I'm sure Chuck got, you guys all were thrown into this big mix when you came here and you realized, oh, dear Lord, Scottsdale is not heaven. There's not manna running from the walls and all the teachers are happy. But think about this. The CSI effort, I'm sorry, Dr. Fuller, you are going to have to get people to speak about that. Because one of the most difficult things to get through a lot of people's heads is the fact that Coronado did horribly. So when you speak about communication, you can't go up there and say, you know what, Coronado sucks because of X, Y, and Z. You know what you say? These are growth opportunities. CSI is doing the following. We're going to have Mrs. Fuller speak about this, this, and this. Mrs. Fuller is going to be discussing independent. She's going to put her stuff on YouTube. She's going to be speaking to Chuck because it's like, hey, Chuck, we're having an issue with these kids dealing with math. How'd you do things at Holcomb? Dr. Perniski, how'd you do things at Tonalea? For the principal at Yavapai and Piedmont, everywhere else. If they have those simple conversations that people realize, yes, there's a problem. Yes, we have someone on top of it. And yes, this is the progress. people will come back and support you. The issue which he mentioned is the fact, once again, is communication. I don't care how many board meetings we have. Board meetings are the worst way to communicate to the public. Sending out emails only to parents is the worst way to have communication. You need to use every method available. You need to have a consistent message. But the main thing is that the buck stops here. If something happens in Tonalea, Dr. Perniski is going to have his phone blow up. If something happens at Hohokam, Chuck's going to have his phone blow up. But do you know what? That's because what I created here in under 10 minutes, the district doesn't put out a gift to anyone. But if I can do this, the district can do the same thing, and they can hand it out to the neighbors. So when we have this thing about the sports field, they can call someone. And then they can say, you know what, at Tonalea we're doing this, at Hohokam we're doing this. You know, Amy's going to be like, hey, look, I'm the new person here. I know I have big shoes to fill, et cetera, whatnot. And I'm going to hit the ground running, and I'm going to continue to do this, this, and this. Like for Tonalea, it's like, why is the building being painted? Could you answer that question? Why isn't it up somewhere? Like, you know, Bob Littlefield's saying, it's like we have all these secret things. They're not secret, they're just buried so far that you guys have to have the additional job of coming to the public and sort of bending broken hearts and giving them the truth. Because the reality isn't as bad as what people are making it, but if you don't communicate, and there's no way for someone to say, hey, you know, the bond is, why is it only a number of schools? Can anyone name the number of schools mentioned? Why weren't the schools mentioned? How come when you bring up your little thing is that you're performing miracles, it should be, look, yes, I'm performing these miracles, this information is wrong, but let's not dwell on that. This is what I'm going to do. And then he could go out to, you know, Chuck is like, yeah, you know what, we're going to be rebuilt next possibly, but here's my list of issues. Yes, you have something else you want to throw in? Send it here. I can send this to whoever it needs to go to, but there needs to be a form of communication. And just like the banner is one simple thing. What I'm trying to tell you is that the community is desperate for just about anything, but if you start exceeding expectations, people will love to come back because then they realize, hey, look, I can go to Hohokam because I know Chuck. Hey, I can go to Coronado because I know Amy. Hey, I can go to Tonalea because of this, that, and the other. For the comment to be made that kids going to Tonalea are going to be physically armed should immediately make you cry and start texting people, dear Lord, we have a PR nightmare. Why is one of our elementary schools considered like this? Because if you get Channel 5 or 3 or 10, because yes, there's people who do that, and they come in and they go into, you know, Dr. Bernisi's face is like, why are children being killed at Tonalea? And he's just saying, well, no children have been killed here. Well, we heard about this, that, and the other. That makes it to the news. What happens to your job? Dr. Krikov returns to a school which has murdered children. And then, but no one's going to get the little bit about Dr. Bernisi saying no one died. They're just going to hear Tonalea is scary, Coronado is failing. So you guys need to turn this around. You need to communicate. Yes, you need to go to bed tonight saying, dear Lord, Ed's going to lecture me on communication again, but I need to do something about it. And so does Amy, so does Chuck, so does Dr. Bernisi. Everyone needs to do that. Because you can't wait for your communications department. I'm sorry. And no, you can't say we have a plan to communicate. Because that leads to Bob Littlefield's, we have secret meetings.
Amy. I was like, can I just interject with a couple things? I appreciate all that. And I know when we met, I privately spoke with you guys about that, my plan, because that's one of my main goals is communication. And then I want to announce I just learned how to tweet based on your suggestions. So I did play with Twitter this weekend. I made my first Coronado tweet earlier today. It was the open house information, which everybody's welcome to. On the 8th, we're having open house starting at 5. I'm working on getting food and some fun stuff for the kids there. But that is one of my goals. And I just want to let everyone know, too, that I really actively sought this out. I wasn't thrown into anything. I was so excited to come to Coronado as it was. I was slated to come to Coronado as the Educational Services Assistant Principal. And then when Mr. Gilmore announced that he was going elsewhere, I asked him to coach me. I was like, well, I would like to move forward into this position. I had called Dr. Fuller. So I am up for this challenge and very excited for it. So
good. And I know the two
of you. A couple of other things you said. One of the things that we talked to all the principals and assistant principals about when they came back was what we call vertical articulation. So within the learning community, the high school principals are the ones in charge of getting the other principals together. We're asking them to meet at least once a month and talk about common issues throughout the program. So that's something that we figured we had it years ago. We're bringing it back.
And it's already scheduled, so that will happen. We sat down and professional development for us, and we're scheduled for the year.
Where is it posted? That's the thing. You need to communicate that. It's like, hey, this is an awesome thing. This is a little blurb about it. You know, the whole thing about the board, you know, we have this perception. It's like, then as board members, you guys should get together. I know you guys aren't paid nothing, but it's like, look, we can talk to our kids. We have phones. We can look like clowns or doofuses, or we can look like professionals, and we can say this is what our job is. For Dr. Fuller, she can say, look, I came to Coronado for this. CSI is this. These are these results. I'm telling you, phones can do more stuff than any communication person possible. So I can tell you, if you mistype a tweet, you're going to get more attention than if Dr. Kikar turns out to be an alien. Because unless someone takes a picture of it and puts it on YouTube, your misspelled tweet's going to gain traction. So you need to tweet, you need to do YouTube.
Maybe you can use that to my advantage.
Yeah, but you need to communicate. You need to show that, you know, Dr. Fuller needs to say, look, CSI is succeeding because of this. We have the support of these people. And then you constantly communicate. It's not just that we're going to communicate this time with City Council, we're going to do this, that, and the other. Make it public. I'm telling you, making a web page now is stupid simple, and using YouTube is, you know, ask a kid. They can show you everything.
Amy Fuller, and then that's, we're going to wind it up.
I'm going to stand up because I'm well tired. I have 3 comments to make to you. The first one is on the board. I was assistant superintendent for 7 years, superintendent for 4, and then I was invited to come here, and I love it. I love Coronado. If you ask the teachers about it, or the kids, I love it. I've been here for a year. But my first comment is regarding the board. Prior to that, I was a board member, and I have been a board president. So I wanted to tell you something. They have unbelievable strict laws. They cannot tell you about employees, for example. They cannot communicate with them. If 3 of them are here, they're breaking the open meeting law. They are very, very strict on what they can and cannot say. They cannot represent the board if there's only 1 of them or 2, for example. But the things they can say to the public are very strict. So when the public goes there and says, oh, I want to know about Dr. B or whatever, they can't not answer. The law for them says they can only talk about what's on the agenda. And the correct thing to answer would be, Dr. Krickar will visit with you, and then you think, well, cowards, you know, why don't you say something? Because they can't by law. So there are many things you may not understand, but I was acting superintendent for Dr. Krickar, and I was invited to that position. I want you to know that I did not volunteer, but I got to meet the board in that way. And these people do care about you. They look that in your eyes because of something that someone else did, but their job is really to trust the superintendent. It's really to go behind him or her, and that's what they did. Now, it wasn't the right person for some reason, but it's not their fault. You know, everything appeared fine. So I'm not suggesting everybody is perfect or easy, but I just want you to know that there's a lot of, and you can go to ASBA and look at the laws and restrictions for board members. Not only they're not unpaid, they don't get any money, it's a thankless job.
Who makes those determinations?
About what?
About the laws and rules and regulations.
The state.
The state.
The state does. So the state, when they come here, they give them the laws and say, this is what you can and cannot do, and then they go to trainings for these things. And they're scared because there are fines they have to pay if they break those laws. Plus, there's other things that they can go. But anyways, so I just wanted you to know that there's these restrictions, and if you want to know more, you can do that. But it's a thankless job. If something goes wrong, it's their fault immediately because they're the top dog. I'm sorry, I love dogs. And if something goes right, they don't get any recognition. So why do these people want to do this? I have no idea. But I did it, so I understand. Second comment. Dr. Krickar said we're interviewing for PR. I would like to nominate Dr. Richard, who is very well educated, by the way, and a parent of a Coronado student and many other students in Tanalea. I think you should give them the voice. If you don't get that job, there will be you one at Coronado. And my third comment and last, I want you to know that we do care. And this was very beneficial to us.
when you tell us we need to communicate, communication is a two-way thing. We think we're communicating, but unless you tell us the message didn't go through or it's not enough or whatever, we wouldn't know because we think things are okay. But when we hear you say these things, we do learn. We're students too. You know, we need to learn and do better. And our job is to serve you. So we want to do that. We want to be able to serve you the way you need to be served, all of us, including the board. So I just want to thank you for your time on behalf of all the administration, because it's not easy. We recognize that you could have been doing other things that are important to you. We recognize that. And we want to thank you for taking the time, including your children, to come here and voice your opinion. Your opinion is important, and you will see changes as of tomorrow. You know, we'll develop that. But anyways, thank you very much.
Dr. Fuller was not compensated for her.
I just have one more thing, and then I'll let Dr. Creekler close it up. Just so you know, our contract and procurement violations this time did not include any open meeting law violations, and we were probably not have to be put on probation for that. That's a good thing.
So I really don't think I have anything more to say after Dr. Fuller stole your thunder. So I would tell you, I think the point about letting people know more about the Coronado Success Initiative. We did have a board member who's been heavily involved in Harvard, writing an article that was an op-ed piece in the Independent, highlighting what happened last year at Coronado, plans for next year. We will continue from Dr. Fuller and Ms. Palatucci to send things out, and we will expand. She's already expanding the media. But also, because last year was a great start for the Coronado Success Initiative at Coronado High School. This year I assigned an administrator that reports to me, as Dr. Fuller reports directly to me, to work with the elementary and middle school in that to build a pipeline of students to help develop programs so that kids come to Coronado already thinking about college, already thinking about what they're doing after high school. And that building that pipeline as well as taking care of the kids at Coronado are two parallel tracks that we need to be on. And this year we've increased our resources in the Coronado community by adding another administrator to that to help the principals in looking at their data and the programs that they have, and to help them get resources and work with the partners. Dr. Fuller has developed a long list of partners with Coronado just in last year. Businesses in the community, throughout the Scottsdale community, and certainly the Scottsdale Charros is a big part of it. So thank you for your time tonight. We appreciate your coming. We do appreciate hearing what your concerns are and understanding more and more about what our job is in terms of communication and what some of the issues are. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
She wants to know when we're going to meet again.
This group?
If you were one of those wonderful 37,000 people who signed our Protect and Preserve initiative, it's just a charter amendment that any expenses with the preserve funds or any construction inside a door of Dallas Memorial Preserve or George's Mountain Range up there north of town will be on the ballot. It has been validated. We had enough good signatures. Of course, we were way over the 24,000 we needed, but they were validated, and it will be Proposition 420. We hope that you will vote yes. We want the charter amendment so that only you, the public, can vote on what happens in the land. So it's a great day.
Thank you, Sonny.
Do you have a moment to sit down with us? Just grab a chair.